In 2011, Black Cat Charlie had this giant seesaw with a 7-sided star in the middle of it that he threw a bunch of wood in. Do you remember this thing?
Maybe.
I totally remember this. So you'd basically jump on this thing, and it would be rocking back and forth and be throwing sparks. Oh, it was so cool.
Oh,
yeah.
That sounds cool.
It was so cool. And so I found this, the first night with my friend Dumpster Coon. And I'm like, this is amazing. So I go back, the second night to show some of my other friends, you got to check this thing out. And this girl is just kind of laying on one side of the seesaw, just looking at the stars. And I'm not really paying attention, and I don't really read social cues. So I get my friends to be like, okay, now we just jump on it. Jump on it back and forth. And this girl's like, you're hurting my vibes. And I'm like, no, this is meant to be kinetic. You're supposed to make it move. And just then Charlie came by to load up more firewood into it. And he's pointing at me as I'm trying to get the crowd to actually use it as a seesaw. And he points at me and goes, you are why I built this.
Hell yeah.
Yep. I believe I'm quite often having interactions with people at Burning Man where they're not necessarily appreciative, and they certainly weren't ready for me and my friends' energy to invade the small space that they're in. But here we are. We're boisterous, and we think everything's funny.
Yeah. I remember one time walking with a couple other DPW friends just out on Playa, not that far from heavy equipment. But we were like, let's just walk out. And we come across what looks like 2 pallets with a couple of delineators and some caution tape just kind of around it. But this is at night. And we see that. I'm like, oh. And then my friend Rapunzel walks in. She's like, wait, hold on. We work for heavy equipment. There's no reason we would have just put some delineators out and abandoned these pallets. What is up with this? And we go out there and we touch it with our foot, and it was a keyboard.
Ooh. Oh.
And and it was one of those little pieces of art. I don't even know if it was
So it was
authorized?
a keyboard on a pallet. It wasn't a keyboard made out of pallets.
It looked like a pallet, but each slat actually, if you stepped on it, made a note.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think it was one of I think it might have been a guerrilla art piece. Right? But also that was the realization, it was someone abandoned some pallets and just put some delineators. And I'm like, why wouldn't we just move them?
Right.
But I love when you find those kind of things. You're like, I don't even know if anybody else knows this is here, but these are amazing,
Yeah, those are some of my favorites.
Yeah.
Art disguised as trash is good.
That, and I haven't told this story since very early in this podcast, but either my first or second year out on Playa, I got there early because back in the day, you used to be able to give some bullshit excuse as to why you had to show up on Thursday or Friday before the event.
Right.
And they'd just be like, yeah, fine. Yeah, no, you're building a little thing. Fine, come on in.
Yeah.
And I'm out biking in Deep Playa, and I found all of this fucking moop, just these really fancy nails and CDs that people were leaving around places. And I'm not proud to say that I collected a bunch of poop.
Oh, no. I actually have one of those floofies, so...
Oh, I brought them back, and I was just look at all of this bullshit. And, one of the guys with me was just like, dude, that's how they place art out there. And I was like, well... Moop, man.
I know.
I've really bought into this. That must have been my sophomore year.
That's pretty good. I love that. Nobody's worse than the sophomores.
I knew so much about everything. Mm-hmm. You couldn't even tell me the man burned down on Monday. Yeah. I wouldn't believe it. This is Accuracy Third. I'm D-Day.
I'm Beth.
I'm Rex.
And today on Accuracy Third, we have another friend who we have worked with pretty closely at Burning Man for a whole bunch of years.
What are you insinuating?
I am insinuating, Beth, tell us about Stinger. Oh, I hope you don't recall Stinger.
I don't.
Stinger was our head rigger at center camp for years.
Oh.
Yeah. You didn't go all of the years that I went.
No.
Because I went all the years.
Yeah. I also was not interacting with Oculus during a lot of
You weren't allowed to.
years that
You were not supposed to be talking to Oculus.
At all. I couldn't make eye contact with them.
No, we are not worthy of Oculus eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
They're a DPW crew.
Well, one of the people who was responsible for the structure for literal years upon years is our friend Stinger, who we're talking to today. And she also was instrumental in the Flaming Piano Trebuchet.
Singer is a she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. No, I've absolutely never met this person. Before Ostentatious, all of my understanding of Oculus was male-dominated, other than Bunny, who ran the tool shed, or, God damn it, there were a couple of really amazing women who ran the tool shed. But otherwise, all the riggers, everyone was men. I have no recollection
Until
of
a
Stinger.
lady. Speaking of ladies, we also have a pretty fabulous Topless Tuesday story in this episode. Beth, the Chuds in the comments have been clamoring to hear any Topless Tuesday stories you might have. Would you be so kind as to feed the Chuds?
I've never done Topless Tuesday. I've done the Critical Tits, the big, massive bike ride where everyone who has tits takes them out.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
Does that happen on Tuesday?
I remember it happening on Thursday, the couple of years that I did it. But Thursday is just in my heart the day that I have the most fun on, whether or not it's actually Thursday.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, Thursday is just the day. I got on my bike, which without I have a larger than A cup, so bike riding without a bra on is like slightly painful. But I got out on my bike with hundreds of tit havers with their tits out, all painfully jiggling them around in this deep enjoyment of fucking having bodies. I loved it. I haven't done it since 2008, partially because I didn't know if it was happening.
Right.
But in 2007, 2008, it was really liberating for my sense of having a body and going out on playa and being wild. It was before it was a lot easier to take a whole bunch of cell phone pictures. It ended at a giant art car in the middle of the desert that was serving frozen drinks. And the art car had carousel horses on it. So it was playing a bunch of kind of crappy music, but had a bunch of really impressive human beings gyrating on these carousel horses that were almost a story above you. And
Did the carousel horses have the pole attached to them?
Yes, absolutely.
Fabulous.
And it was a bunch of non-breast having people who were servicing everyone. We got a bunch of, there were
As is only proper.
very attentive people walking around with trays of beverages for all of the tits out people.
It's pretty fancy.
It was very fancy. It was super cute. It was a weird kink thing that I've never been on that other side of. Well, it's not my kink thing, but it is you get off on serving us? That's so great. I love it. Let's do it.
I love it. Let's do it. We casually mentioned heat in this a bunch of times without ever explaining what heat is or who they are. Rex, for our new listeners, what is heat?
It's a DPW team. It's heavy equipment and transportation.
Thank you, Rex.
Yeah, they run all the cranes and heisters and variable reach lifts and fucking
All those
semi
tractor
trucks.
trailers
Yeah.
full of stuff.
Uh-huh.
One thing you should know about this episode is that we recorded it before we went to the event in 2024. And as such, we didn't know when we recorded this episode how much of a community resurgence the Center Camp Canopy would have this year, which it did. Center Camp was off the chain this
It
year.
was bitchin'. It was
pretty
so
cool.
fucking good.
Yep. And patrons, the cut of this episode that all of you get to hear us talk even more about the Flaming Piano Trebuchet, as well as some of the madness of the first Trump administration's Department of the Interior, demanding that Burning Man institute a bunch of insane, logistically infeasible plans for the event. If you are new to Burning Man and what has come before, you might want to go down an internet rabbit hole about the Choco Taco incident and the Jersey barriers.
And the dumpsters. Don't forget the dumpsters. They want us.
If you don't know about this, join our Discord and in our Ask Accuracy Third Anything section, put a question about what the hell happened with this thing, and we will ping pong back and forth explaining it in a completely unplanned and incomplete fashion. So, listeners, welcome back to season 7, season
8?
Season 8. It's at the top of the dock. Season 8. My God. Episode 2, Season 8. We're here right now. You're here with us.
I'm Beth.
Beth is here. Enjoy these discussions between me and Rex and Stinger about bugs and drunks and architecture and Center Camp.
I'm Rex.
All hail Center Camp.
Well, so first off, let's get an introduction. Who the hell are you?
I am Stinger, otherwise known as Stinger Hardly Knower.
Nice.
I didn't realize that there was an extension to it.
Oh, yes. It's important that your whole playa name involves until it has a full name.
Mm-hmm. I am very pleased to have a comma in my playa name.
What is your comma?
It's Rex, comma, on the radio.
Oh.
How did you get Stinger Barely Knower?
It's Hardly Knower. Oh, it's such a good story. Okay.
Fabulous.
So, in 2011, I applied for DPW, and I got a phone call from Cobra Commander doing the interview, and things were going really well. And my given name is Elaine, and I used to introduce myself as Elaine rhymes with insane. Because I hate being called Ellen or Eileen. I mean, they're fine names. They're just not my name.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm.
And Cobra Commander asked me if I have any nicknames. And I said, yes, insane. And he goes, we've already got one. All right. So I was telling my friend Leeway, I'm like, I think I'm into DPW, but I don't know about this playa name thing. And Leeway goes, Leeway I've known since the world of tall ships, by the way. Leeway goes, well, 2 pieces of advice. 1, do not tell anybody that you're seeking a playa name. And also, whatever name they give you that you like, just go with. I'm like, all right. Like, something will happen and it will figure out. I'm a boat captain, and I really do not want to be called Skipper. Which is funny.
Oh, yeah.
Because my friend Skipper from ESD Logistics fame was hired the year after me. So I have this advice, and I'm going to leave from Los Angeles to drive up to Gerlach for my first year. And I stopped by my friend's house in Southern California who keeps bees. And this is my way to, about to do the 10-hour drive to Reno. And I just stop and say hi. And she's showing me the hive of her bees. And I'm like, all right, this visit's going well. Well, I got a long drive ahead. And I start walking back to my truck. And 2 of her bees get me, one in the face and one in the neck. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And they monitor me for you have to stay here for 2 hours. We have to make sure you don't go into anaphylactic shock. I'm like, all right. So I do, and I don't. Like, okay, well, you're not going into anaphylactic shock, but you should really take some Benadryl. I'm like, no, I have a 12-hour drive ahead of me. I'm not taking Benadryl. Anyways, I start on this long, arduous journey to get up to Gerlach from Los Angeles, and the swelling in my face is getting worse and worse and worse. And I pull over, and I call Cobra Commander. I leave some message for him, like, oh, I got stung in the face by a bee, so I'm going to be a little late on my first day, but I'm still coming. I'm so excited. Anyways, I finally get up to Gerlach, and they put me in a bunk at the bunkhouse, and I'm miserable, and I'm pulling over every rest stop I could the whole way up to add more ice, to hold ice against my face. And I go into Bruno's the following morning. It's going to be the first DPW meeting of the season, and my face is so swollen. I can't even swallow anymore. It's not anaphylactic shock, but it's just the swelling is so bad and so out of control. And the lady at Bruno's gives me another thing of ice, and she's, just they're going to start the meeting in the back of Bruno's. Just go sit down, and we'll help you. So I go sit by the door, by one of the round tables, as close to the door as possible. I don't know anybody. And I'm holding ice against my face, my super swollen face, and the room fills with people. And Cobra Commander sits right next to me, and he looks at me and goes, are you Elaine? And I pull the ice away, and I'm like, uh-huh. And he goes, do you need medical assistance? And I'm like, yes, please. And he goes, do you need medical assistance right now? Or can I do this quick meeting and then we'll get you help? I'm like, you can do the quick meeting? You know, I'm like slurping. And he goes, okay, we got you. This will be real fast. We're going to get you help. So he stands up and he goes, good morning, DBW. And 250 faces all look at him and therefore me because I'm right next to him. And I try to like slide under the table and hide because I don't know what's happening. And this is horrible. And everyone's looking right at me. And so that happens. And we go over to the office right there on Main Street. And they call for the medics. And the medics are like, oh, that's a little beyond us. So they're like, all right, we're going to have to actually call for the ambulance.
Jesus.
Well, because they didn't have a shot of Benadryl to give me.
Right.
Medics don't really have the... I mean,
They don't have the good stuff.
Yeah.
They've got the keep you alive stuff for a minute.
Right. And I don't know if you know this, but there is an actual ambulance in the town of Gerlach. So, you know, they basically have to call Willie. As they're also calling 911 and be like, oh, good, warm it up, get it ready so you can drive me out to Empire so they can meet with the helicopter. Anyway.
Oof.
Well, because the helicopter had more Benadryl.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're not actually going in the...
You didn't need the helicopter.
Right.
You
I
needed
didn't
what was on the helicopter.
Right, exactly. So we're just waiting for, you know, this ambulance to come the 2.5 blocks from where it's parked to the front of the office. And people are kind of out there waiting with me. And this really tall lady, super beautiful lady with black and red hair says to me, we should call you Queen Bee. And I said, no, thank you. Queen sounds too pretentious. I said to make out Queen.
I was going to ask.
She introduces herself as Amber. How's I to know? To her credit, she stood there, blinked twice, and then just said, how about Stinger? And the advice that Leeway had said is whatever name that they give you, like, go with. So as I'm getting to the back of the ambulance, I said, like, you can call me Stinger. And she and Chaos and DA and Hazmat, they all come out. And, like, the scene in the movie, they're like, we name her Stinger.
As they close the doors
Yes.
of the ambulance behind you.
We drive over just to Empire where the helicopter nurse meets up, you know, gives me a shot of Benadryl. The swelling goes down immediately. And the helicopter nurse says, it was very nice to meet you. I hope to never see you again.
Wow, that is one of the top Ply name stories that we've gotten.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I have a history with bugs. After I got the name Stinger in 2015, if you do a Google search for Burning Man bugs, you get to see a lovely picture of my back.
Oh, yeah. The mustard bugs.
Yeah.
They really liked you, huh?
Oh, they liked everybody, but there was a very small percentage of us that were actually swelling from all the bites. Everybody was getting bit, but very few of us looked like we had chicken pox. And I was one of those lucky individuals that looked like we had chicken pox. I became the poster person for the bug crisis. It's so weird. You always think you're going to get famous at Burning Man for like building some cool art or like doing something super memorable. You don't realize that you're going to get famous because your video is going to end up on TMZ if you're walking into the commissary because you're just covered in bug bites. You're like, oh, that's the fame that everyone wants.
Nice. I went to Burning Man and now I'm covered in these lumps.
I know.
And they itch.
They super itch. I know. And, you know, the internet comments. Like, people are like, those bugs aren't supposed to bite people. And you're like, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Well, then tell them that.
Yeah. That's a super helpful piece of advice. Thank you.
Yeah. There was 3 types of bugs that year.
Yeah, there were the stink bugs.
Yeah.
There were the green mustard bugs. And there were those like long blackish beetle things.
There was a bug that I guess were sap suckers, but there was no sap to suck, so they tried to taste people.
Well, yeah.
And it was a really hot year, and it was funny because I also remember the internet comments of like, what is Burning Man going to do? And I'm like, these bugs are going to be dead in 3 days before the first participant shows up. What is everyone worried about?
Oh, what Burning Man is going to do is look at where all the Klieg lights were and go, why are there all these bugs here?
Do you remember behind the cafe, like where the light towers were, where that wall was?
Oh, yeah.
Span 6 of like at the end of the event, just the piles of the dead bugs, that were probably 6 inches, 8 inches tall.
Yeah.
The amount of bug carcasses that I mooped that year and then threw right back down.
It's not really moop.
Right. But it seems like a thing you have to pick up. And now that you've picked it up, nothing to do but drop it so that you pick it up again like half an hour from now.
Every year, especially I guess during survey, but every year they have a small bug event. I don't even want to call it a crisis, but they have every year they have a small bug event where the bugs are just swarming for about 3 or 4 days. And every year I get a whole bunch of texts like, "Good thing you're not out here." Because I'd be in my trailer.
So how did you end up in our cult in the first place?
How did I end up at Burning Man?
Yeah.
Okay. So my first boyfriend was a guy named who you might know as...
Oh,
wow.
I have heard of.
Anyways, this was when we were both teenagers. And he was telling me about this amazing place called Burning Man. This is probably 97.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Oh, it's so great. You should go. It's crazy. You got to go out to the desert for this party. And you got to find this guy that's sitting out in this chair. And if he likes you, he'll give you directions of how to get to the party. And if he doesn't like you, he'll give you the wrong directions and you might die." And I was like, well, I want nothing to do with that.
My assumption is like this guy on this chair is probably going to think that like I'm pretty obnoxious and isn't going to give me directions to the event.
Well, also, like, why would I want to have to fight for popularity for some guy with a gun and sitting in a lawn chair in the middle of the desert? I'm not going to win any favors with him. And so I filed that away for years of like, don't bother. And then my friend who was known as Burning Dan, who I met at a Renaissance fair, he's actually the person that convinced me to get 13 holes in my ear.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, "Well, you should really give Burning Man a try." And so he was like, "It's gotten, people are like, it's gotten better. They don't even drive over people at night anymore." You're like, "Oh, okay. Well, at least I no longer have to worry about that."
It's got roads and toilets, like a real civilization.
Yeah. Well, that was the other thing, too. It's like, "Oh, yeah, you have to keep your wits about you because you never know when you're going to get run over." I'm like, "Oh, that sounds like something I don't want to do." Anyways, I finally give Burning Man a try. This is probably, I didn't go in 2007, but one of the years on either end of that, I can't remember which. I went for a year, and then I didn't go for a year, and then I came back for 2 years as a participant, and then I joined DPW. But I finally gave it a try, and I remember that first year, Burning Man's all right. I'm kind of getting it, I understand it, but I'm giving like the tour around my theme camp. And now that I'm finally giving Burning Man a try, they look up and they're like, "And over here's our flag." And they look up to their flagpole and their flag is missing. And they're like, "God damn it, DPW." And I'm like, "Well, what's DPW?" And they start explaining that they're like these terrible people and, that just raid your camp for beer and steal your flags. I'm like, "Well, I want nothing to do with those people." So I went from wanting nothing to do with Burning Man to wanting nothing to do with DPW. And
They're the scourge of beer and flags.
It's so funny when you ask even burners, but especially burners that have only been for 1 year, what they think DPW is. They're like, they're the people that put up all the street signs. You're like, that's why there's 1,000 of them.
Well, they keep being stolen, so
no.
everybody needs to have 50 street signs.
Everybody gets half a sign. Everybody gets one sign. Yeah, but it's so funny what people think that they are. And now, their sub-departments just keep expanding. And there's so many more.
Oh, they calved off NVO this last couple of years.
What does that mean?
NVO? It's.
I know what you're saying, but what were you saying they calved off?
They're not part of DPW anymore. They're a whole other department.
I think that's just the rebranding.
Well, it's like Gate is just road DPW. And they're not actually doing the work on the roads anymore. They're just there supervising the roads.
We're all team Wear Black in the Sun. Mm-hmm. Fine. It's fine. Whatever your logo is, it's fine.
Do you have any history about DPW and flags? Why would somebody think DPW stole their flag? Why, Stinger?
Well, I used to have a history about it. What should I say about this?
Flag game.
Yeah. I'm not the historian on this, but someone told me it was like this rivalry originally between the DPW and the Rangers, and then it just progressed into any flag any participants had.
Belongs to DPW.
Belongs to DPW. Which, by the way, it's one thing if you're like actually playing Capture the Flag with people that are consenting to playing Capture the Flag. It's another thing if you just put your whatever flag up in your camp and then it's just gone. We call that theft.
As someone who got a flag for this podcast 3 or 4 years ago now and has never brought it to Burning Man, when we bring it to Burning Man this year, if it is stolen by DPW, that's fine.
Oh, that's a fireable offense now. If you're found out to be but you said it's fine, so that's
I think it's fine.
I'm trying to unearth the history of the incident that stopped DPW flag snatching, because I know that it used to be a thing.
Coyote would know.
Coyote would know.
Probably even knows the exact culprit. Probably even knows the exact flag.
Yeah.
Which camp was probably pissed.
I have more faith in finding the answer to that than finding the answer to the mysterious Joker card game.
I thought the Joker card game was Nico Peaches.
I don't know. No one will tell me anything about it.
Let's credit him. That seems
I'm fine with that. I had a Joker in my wallet for a very, very long time, but now I don't anymore.
I don't anymore either. That's been one of those things that's gone away.
That's fine.
Just like Topless Tuesday has kind of gone away.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't take my tits out on Tuesdays, and I don't carry a wallet around with me on Playa, so these problems solve themselves.
Only one of those things is true.
You don't carry a wallet?
Not on Playa. And DPW usually isn't shouting at me to show them my Joker. Just
Oh, yeah.
in
I
the
have a
world.
good Topless Tuesday story.
Fabulous.
I was the head rigger of the Center Camp Cafe. I had that job for 5 years, and it was year 2 or 3, and it was a Tuesday, and I was wearing both a tutu and topless to celebrate both. And I had a question. I needed to have a consult with some of the other riggers and heavy equipment. So I walked topless and wearing a tutu from the cafe over to heavy equipment to have a conference with the head rigger and the boss of heavy equipment at the time, who was Chaos, and Chaos's assistant Patches. And it was such a weird feeling to talk about the structural integrity of something while topless and wearing a tutu and being taken seriously. And Burning Man is the only place in the world where, like, oh yeah, they actually respect my brain and my capabilities. Even though I am, yeah.
It really is a place to show your peers what you are capable of in any situation they find you in.
And also to show off your junk.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I come from a background of being a tall ship sailor, and they used to wrap these giant flags in the middle of the cafe. They used to wrap them around and like raise these things up and then kind of shimmy them and twist them and try to get the wind to catch them so they would, unfurl. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? This way is terrible and dangerous. You guys are holding these giant poles up.
Shut up, we're artists.
Exactly. So
We're doing it, and like the crown flags of Center Camp, the flags themselves are huge.
Oh, yeah.
But the tube steel that they're on, the flagpoles themselves, they're like fucking 20 feet long?
No, they're taller than that.
30, 40, I don't know. They go down pretty far
Yeah.
into the structure.
Yeah.
But it's just humongous for lifting something that could be caught by the wind.
So I teach them how to do a flake, which is like an accordion fold, and then do a slip knot that they can just pull from the ground. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, let's try this one year. So they put them up. I'm like 3, 2, 1, and they all pulled on the strings at the same time, and they all just popped straight out. And everyone was like, "Oh, we're learning things from 200-year-old tall ship technology." They were so happy of this new method because it was less dangerous. But I remember doing this video of like how to do this flake of these giant flags while topless. So I'm sure some training video,
Somewhere buried deep in high.
somewhere is that. And I think about
the
that.
alternate.
Yeah. I think about that from time to time because I'm trying to be an actress again. And I'm like, you know what? I wasn't doing anything illegal in the location of where I was. I was allowed to be topless in Black Rock City. So it'd be no different if someone was videotaping me working at a...
Wasn't an
US
OSHA
colony.
site back then.
You don't have to wear a shirt or a hard hat in order to fold a flag.
No. No, that's true.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're supposed to have nipples out.
That's only in food service.
Yeah, I think you totally can with folding flags.
I can't concentrate operating a chainsaw or any piece of equipment with nipples out, no matter what the gender. I just like looking at them pepperonis. Skin makes that shape.
What was it about your first year that made you feel like this was a thing you were going to have to keep doing?
So much about people's first Burning Man experience relies on who they go with. And I went with my first year as a participant, and we got into a terrible argument on the way out there.
Ooh.
And I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but I already knew I wasn't going to have a good time. And I was already regretting the fact that I had invited them to come along. And it's my first year. I don't even know what I'm getting into. Like, basically,
Was this somebody you'd been dating for a long time, or?
Yeah, I'd been dating them for maybe a year and a half or 2 years at that time. But our relationship was already kind of, there was already the giant red flags. And, like, the trip out there, I'll just say it. Like, we picked up all this alcohol somewhere east of Oakland to bring out there. And they had drunk an entire bottle of gin before we hit Reno.
Oh, my God.
So, if that tells you how my first experience, Anyways, we get there, we get to my theme camp, and I want to set up my tent. And he wants to he's just overstimulated and wants to party. And he's already super drunk, right? Day one. And he's like, we can just sleep out under the stars. And I'm like, no, it's not what I want to do. I want to set up camp. I want to.
First, I have to nest.
Yes, let me have a place so that way when I'm tired and it's perhaps windy, I can actually go back to. And he was like pouting, pouting with my campmates who've been to Burning Man for, Elaine says I have to set up camp before I can go have fun. Like, oh my God. Anyways, he decides at some point in his, I'm sure, inebriated state, decides that he's going to fast during the week. It's like, why not? It's a good time to fast.
Jesus Christ.
People always thinking they should just start doing new shit at Burning Man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I get it. I'm not that hungry out in the heat either, but eat some fucking food.
And we're getting in like these arguments, but he's so drunk, and sometimes with very drunk people, actually often with very drunk people, like the only cure is for them to go to sleep. And when you're walking around Burning Man with a very drunk person and you're kind of apologizing to these other people that you're just meeting about the status of your partner, it's not a good sign, right?
Right.
And I remember this so distinctly. He's like, I think I'm going to take a vow of silence this week, too. Like, not only is he like, I know, right? This is like day 2 or day 1, by the way. Like, this is going so bad.
This is a lot.
This is a lot.
You're making a lot of changes, man.
I remember this so distinctly. And I said, do not do that to me. Don't. If you just stop talking to me, like, that's it. We're broken up.
Stop drinking.
And I'll just leave.
You wake up the next morning, he's got his head shaved, he's wearing your shade cloth as a
Almost. It was almost that bad. Anyways, I had one of those. We were in line to see an art project. I don't remember which one it was, but we're in line to see an art project. It's at night. And I have one of those, like, paper conical hats. Have some
Party hat?
No. Like,
more like a Chinese farmer's hat?
Yeah. I didn't want to say that, but yes. It's field worker hat. Straw and kind of flattened conical. And I remember
Samurai hat.
Yes, sure. That works.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I remember this so distinctly is like, I'm just kind of rolling my eyes and like, please don't take a vow of silence. If you're going to just don't. That's not going to work out. And he said, okay, I promise you I won't, right? So then the line moves a little bit forward, and so we walk a little bit. And I ask him about some other art car or something I had just driven by. And he looks at me and mouths the word, I took a vow.
Oh, my God.
So I took this conical hat off of my head, put it straight on the ground, and I know anyone that knows me is Leave No Trace is going to hate this part. I put my foot through it and said, fuck this place, I'm never coming back. And I left the hat there. Sorry, LNT people, but I think, when you're having a meltdown like that, it's excusable in a way. I packed up and I left the next morning. And that was before I took the year off. But what's funny is that, do you remember Radar?
Absolutely.
Radar was standing kind of behind me when that whole incident went down, and I was retelling this story, and Radar said, I was standing right behind you. And the moment that happened, I was like, oh, that girl's coming back as staff.
Wow.
Not bad.
I wonder if I was also there.
Maybe.
Radar's my ex.
Oh, maybe. Do you remember that? Hey, you moved the hat. Fuck you. Sorry, I shouldn't yell. Don't care.
That's phenomenal.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Whoever resto person picked up that hat.
But there was still something to it. You took a year off, but you still came back.
Yeah, because Burning Dan said I didn't give it a fair shake. And when I went back as a participant, and then I spent the second year kind of going more around the city, like visiting the theme camps rather than just the art projects. And I think that's when I kind of got it more. Mm-hmm. And that's when I happened to walk by heavy equipment, and the lead rigger at the time was someone that I met in the world of tall ships. That's when it kind of all dawned to me of like, I should be giving more. Like, I am always happiest at these events if I have something to do. It doesn't have to be a full-time gig, but I'm happiest if I volunteer, a couple shifts. If I have something where people are relying on me, I'm always happier. I am a big fan of sustainable jackassery. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite early man projects that I did, what was the year that it really hailed all the time pre-event? It was 13, right?
I think that was 13.
Yeah. Anyways, we didn't have time to really build an early man project. And because we were just so far behind on Center Camp Cafe. That was the first year where Marcia was like, oh, well, I guess we'll just open on Tuesday. Right? Mm-hmm. She's just like, what are you going to do? Can't fight the weather, as you guys all learned last year. Ha ha.
Oh, it's great.
I know. Like the whole we decide when the man burns. Nope, that's still the weather. It's still the weather. Anyways, we didn't have time to build an early man project, but we can't just not build one. So I just got like a 4x8 or 4x6 sheet of scrap wood, and I just painted on it that said, due to the weather, Oculus's early man project will be delayed, right? Because we were already talking about opening the cafe late, and that was it. And I pounded 2 pieces of cement stake in and just lashed this thing upright as a sign, like, sorry, we didn't make a project, but at least I put a wooden sign that we can still burn. And then I borrowed like 4 managers' ice pogs and got all the ice and just dumped it on the ground underneath it to represent the hail.
Yep.
And I learned something so fascinating about diesel. If you soak a piece of wood in diesel and then put a whole bunch of ice underneath it, it still won't light. So all these other early man projects are ablaze. And here's mine, which is just a sign saying that the burn will be delayed and it's not lighting. And there's like 2 road flares like lashed to this thing, like going, and it's still just not igniting because it's so cold. You need the heat as part of the fire tetrahedron. And the longer the thing wasn't burning, the funnier it was. And then finally, somebody else who's now a manager of another department got so pissed off that this thing wasn't burning that he just grabbed the whole thing, pulled it straight out of the ground, and threw it on the embers of Heat's project. And I immediately was like, my cleanup is done.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Wow, that's wild. I never would have imagined that ice could inhibit diesel from...
Oh, yeah. I went out there the next morning to help with cleanup, and there was just like literally 2 ice cubes still left. I'm like, I'm done.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
I met Devo, who was the former head rigger, at a tall ship festival when I was super drunk with my pants around my ankles because I was showing off some of my boat tattoos. I have 5 tall ships tattooed on my thigh. They're all on the starboard tack, so they all have right away. Right? And like, it's such a perfect, there's a tall ship event, and this guy Devo was there. So then he was the one that vouched for me to join DPW, and I was always kind of like, oh, I don't really know. We never worked together, but we worked for the same captains who gave me a good character reference, and tall ship people are really good people. Mm-hmm. And so when they were looking for a new rigging person for the cafe, and I applied, he was like, oh, well, you should give Elaine a chance because she comes so highly recommended from these captains that we've both worked for. So then, like, oh, how do you know Devo? I'm like, I met him once at a tall ship festival with my pants around my ankles, which also seems like a good way of like Burning Man, right? Like, oh, now he's my boss,
Yeah, that's a story with a turnaround to it. Oh, I met him once at a tall ship convention. Yeah. With my pants around my ankles. Ah, you're hired.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Well, this girl's already got it.
Yeah, one of us.
Yeah. She can't get any more humiliated than this moment, so just go for it. This moment's in public. At least in Black Rock City. It's just in Black Rock City.
Yeah, that's true.
It wasn't really in public. It was just on the boats. But.
So you got hired straight in to do the rigging for...
No, because I had rigging experience. It was suggested that I would be a good fit for center camp. They were trying this new thing that year where they were going to just have a heat rigger come and check them off, but they were going to try to set it up themselves, which is legal and fine. But after my first year of just being a generic member of Oculus crew with a lot of rigging background, I think heat really pushed this, as well as I think chaos pushed this too. You know, the cafe really needs its own dedicated rigger. To have just different heat riggers come in for the day and not follow the whole project through anymore, just to kind of supervise and check things off, doesn't really work anymore.
That seems kind of dangerous.
Yeah, so it was my second year at DPW that they were like, you are the cafe rigger now. And I was like, okay, that's a lot of responsibility. I can do it. I held on to that job for 5 years, and I actually made some great changes in the hardware and the application that I'm really proud of to this day. What was funny is when I stopped doing that job to replace me, you know, it has on the Burning Man job board of all the requirements, like, you need an engineering degree. I'm like, no, you don't.
How did you find that experience? That structure is so intricate and fascinating.
I think in my history of being a tall ship sailor, to me, I always looked at it as masts and sails. I mean, even though it was shade cloth, right? But it's like wind load and masts, and it was like, she's a beautiful ship, and it's my job to make sure she stays anchored, right? It's just such an interesting design. I'm not an architect, but it's so smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I spent some time this year modeling it in AutoCAD, and the way it's put together is so simple and brilliant.
Yeah, and that it's 360. Mm-hmm. And what was fascinating is, as you know, the wind kind of blows down 6 o'clock. So the 2 times when the structure is the least likely to tear itself apart, and I should probably knock on wood as I say that, is when there's no shade cloth or 100% shade cloth. Mm-hmm. Because if there's 100% shade cloth, it actually squashes down on itself.
Right.
It balloons out. And if there's no shade cloth, then there's nothing really to catch the wind. So I would have them, I don't know if they still do this, but they should. If you're listening, I would have them start putting shade cloth on at 6 and then reverse Pac-Man around until they got to 12. Mm-hmm. So that way, if the wind, which prominently comes down 6, picked up in the 2 or 3 days they're putting shade cloth on, it was still hopefully
pushing
squashed down rather than balloon out. But who knows? Who knows what they do anymore? But anyways, if you're listening out there, that's why I did it. I love that structure. Devo said to me once that if any other structure falls down, and sorry, Devo, if you're listening and I'm paraphrasing you incorrectly, but if any other structure falls down, people will hopefully get out of the way. Mm-hmm. But the cafe always has people underneath it. So it's important that the person take that job incredibly seriously, which is also why it's important that they have a dedicated rigger.
Right.
And I really liked that space. I felt like it was not only was it a good shade space and a good wind block when they had the wall across 6, plus, you know, everyone painting that wall, but it just felt like, I don't want to say an art gallery because that's not right, even though there was art in there.
It feels like some sort of henge to me, especially before the shade cloth goes on. It's just like something made by ancients to channel power out in the desert.
Oh, yeah. And if you've ever taken a scissor lift ride through the middle, it almost has this basket weave effect of the way the lines kind of pull in and then hourglass out to the top again. It's very spiritual. It's very connecting. It's very calming. And that even includes when you would have, like, you know, the marching bands in there too. Like, it still felt like a very great community space. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of sad to hear that some of that has kind of gone away the last couple of years. I hope they bring it back.
Yeah, well, check it out this year. There's a ton of shit getting packed under there. We're bringing back the monkey chant.
I don't know what that is.
You never saw the monkey chant happen there? Mm-mm. It's a Balinese tradition. I think the accurate term for it is kachak. And it's this awesome participatory monkey-sounding chant thing that they just fill the space with people and get them to do together.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that space. I think that you know, we were talking about the flags before. I always try to use the flags of the cafe as my marker, because if you use the man, we're burning that down Saturday. And if you use the temple, well, we're burning that down Sunday. We're not burning those flags down. So.
There will also this year be lasers.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, real marker.
Was on sharks' heads?
Point it up, hopefully. And like maybe brace them or something so they don't fall over.
Oh. All right, point it straight up to like signal what?
They're going to be in the backyard pointing up and like past the Oculus, so that when you're looking in from the city, there's like an array of lasers coming out of the top.
Oh, cool. Not to like signal the space station, hey, Burning Man's happening and you're up there, ha.
Well, I mean, if they want to look at what we're doing, they can watch the live stream just like anyone else at home.
It's to shoot down Boeings. All you have to do is get within 300 meters of one, and they'll just plummet out of the sky.
Do you remember the year that the lightning hit the cafe?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
There is actually a PSA, I think on BMIR, Still of Me, of like, hi, it's the Stinger, your friendly neighborhood DPW, reminding you during a lightning storm, don't touch anything metal, and that includes all metal in the cafe or the scaffolding of your theme camp. You know?
That thunderstorm was a real eye-opener for me. I have never seen the ground arc.
Yeah, wasn't it neat?
Cool.
Totally made you feel like Neo in the Matrix. Oh, we're all human batteries.
Made me realize we might be partying on top of a capacitor.
Yeah, that makes sense. Burning Man is a powerful place, and, you know, just harness that energy.
And it's important to listen to your friends when they're like, hey, get under the secondary structure.
Yeah.
Stop pounding that rebar in a lightning storm. While I'm just like, no, this is the last one. It's fine.
It's fine. Fine.
And that's when lightning hit center camp.
Well, also, wasn't it that same year with all the hail, too? So then, like, the playa was wet, so not only was it arcing, I totally remember that. Where it was, like, we'd watch the electricity kind of like an oil slick just kind of roll across the wet playa. You're like, oh, this is so pretty. I'm so glad there's no participants right now. You know?
It's a good time to be on top of a container.
In a lightning storm?
Well, just when the electricity is going across the playa, it's good to be elevated from that.
Yeah, on top of a big piece of steel.
Yep, wearing rubber-soled shoes.
Oh, yeah. You guys live so dangerously.
I don't have hobnailed boots anymore. I'm fine.
I prefer to be in my trailer because I think that there's rubber tires, so that's probably good enough. I don't know.
I've also been in a car that was hit by lightning. The rubber tires did a hell of a job keeping us from getting electrocuted.
Did your clock stop? What happened?
I was in my friend. Hi, Chad Haley. You're not listening to this, but if you are, hi. I was in my buddy Chad Haley's Dodge Omni, and we're driving through the fucking woods in Pennsylvania, like down a country road with no lights on it and a wall of trees on either side. The hood of his car gets hit by lightning, and the lightning like goes up and over the windshield. And Chad goes, "What was that?" And I was like, "If you don't know, you have to stop the car and let someone else drive." I'm pretty sure we were too young to be driving drunk through Pennsylvania, but I'm not going to say that we weren't. I wasn't.
Stinger, do you have a favorite piece of playa art?
No, but I will tell you of some of the playa arts that have really been amazing to me because I don't want to have a favorite.
Oh, your favorite can just be what's your favorite right this second?
I don't have a favorite right this second. I really like the immersive experiences like the Lost Apothecary or the Last Outpost.
Yeah.
Oh, Last Outpost is incredible.
Yeah.
Like maybe unreplicable.
Oh, yeah. So good with all the beans and everything. The only bummer about those immersive experiences is if you don't, I hate to say this, but if you don't see them by like Monday, by Wednesday, all the people on acid have taken all the little props because this one bottle is my friend now and it has to go back with me to my camp. And you're like, no, please leave it. It was part of set decor. Oh,
but that's what happens
I know.
to the Lost Outpost during the apocalypse. Like people are going to scavenge.
I love the metal gear art. Like one year there was these big horses in the keyholes that.
Oh, yeah, those were great.
Yeah, you like turned handles and these whole horses would like prance their paws or stuff. I'm not doing justice describing it at all.
The dressage, the mechanical dressage horses.
I love those.
They would canter.
Oh, one of my favorite performance art pieces in 2015 was the Trebuchet.
Yes.
Oh God, the Trebuchet was amazing.
Yes, please tell us all about the Trebuchet.
I don't know the early history of the Trebuchet. Before we get into the Trebuchet, I have to tell you something about something I learned about working resto. So, you're there for like an additional month, sometimes even 6 weeks, longer than everybody else, which I love. But by the time you come back to Reallandia, nobody cares about which art car you saw.
Yep.
Like, they already had their, you should have been in it this year. Like, they're already over it. They're already talking about their Christmas plans. And you're like, but don't you want to know how my Burning Man was? Oh. All right. So I don't know the entire history of the Trebuchet, other than it was built for a Volkswagen commercial. And Johnny America then brought it out to Playa a few years later. And I think that was 2007, 2008. And I guess they didn't even throw anything with it until post-event, basically, like
Right.
Trash Man. It's like, we have this fun thing out here. We might as well use it.
The Trebuchet was something that I'd heard about as sort of a rumor. It was one of those things where they tell you how much fun the party is after the party is closed.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah.
They do Trash Man, and they have a Trebuchet where they just throw explosive shit. You should join DPW.
The first time I saw it during Trash Man, throwing shit on the smoldering ashes of the man.
Yeah.
But then, they brought it to the big event, and that was super exciting.
So one of the people who was part of my first theme camp, which was Temple of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, when I was a participant, is an animator for The Simpsons.
Ooh.
And he loves the Trebuchet. Part of his, he was also the person that was like, God damn you, DPW, about the flag. But then he was also like, but they have this Trebuchet. And so he was really excited about it. And then a few years went by, and they made The Simpsons go to Burning Man, and they turned the Trebuchet into a catapult. So I went to him, and I'm like, what the heck? Why is it
Much easier to animate.
Well, he said the notes that they got from their boss, and I don't want to name his name, although I probably get him in trouble right now.
Algene.
No. He said the script said catapult, and so I have to draw a catapult. I can't draw something that the script doesn't say. And I think
Right.
the theory is that people know catapults from Bugs Bunny cartoons, but they don't actually understand a trebuchet, and it drives me nuts to this
Because they
day.
didn't watch Junkyard Wars when they were growing up.
If you watch some videos of 2015's trebuchet, and they're like, the trebuchet is going to catapult this. You're like, you can't use that as
it's going to fling.
It's going to. You can say the trebuchet is going to trebuchet this piano. Don't say it's going to catapult. That's the wrong machine. No. So this thing is sitting on the ranch for years, and ranch leadership changes. And I hear third hand of Stinger, they're talking about scrapping the trebuchet. And I'm like, what? They should ask me. We'll move it back. I'll take it back.
There's an alley that not a lot is going on in LA. We can just keep it there for a couple weeks.
It's fine. I have friends with rural land. It's fine. We'll figure something out, right? And so I'm having a phone conversation with DA, who I love dearly. I think he's an awesome individual.
You mean Dark Angel?
I do. Dark Angel of the Black Rock. I love him dearly.
Is that also a part of his name?
It is. That's his whole name. It's Dark Angel of the Black Rock.
I love it
so much. If you call him on the radio, make sure you use his full name, and then you can hear him go,
Yeah. He earned it. That exasperation is honest. Oh, God, DA. That's so fucking cool.
Yeah. I love DA. I think he's wonderful. And I'm just having a phone conversation with him. And I'm like, I have to figure out when I'm going to go up to Gerlach and pick up the trebuchet. And he's like, why? What's going on? I'm like, it's just taking up space. They want to get rid of it. And he comes up with this whole idea of what if we use it as a Leave No Trace demonstration this year? What if we actually put it back together? And, it can be the DPW project, and I'll get placement, and you can just, run the logistics of how to do it, and Johnny America can put it back together, and let's throw some flaming pianos and show the public about how to leave no trace, Isn't that the whole, not only thing about Burning Man, but also just being a good party guest? Go ahead and make whatever goddamn mess you're going to make. Just make it look like it never happened, right? Yep. Which is such a good Leave No Trace example. And it was just such a brilliant idea. And it was such a good community art project for us to rally around. But it was also so annoying. I was just saying this earlier, where 2015 was a hard year. It was the year of the bugs. It was a very dusty year. We had an older member of our staff pass away right before Early Man. Remember Spoono? Mm-hmm. And it was just... a lot of the years blur together, but 2015 really sticks out of being one of those really distinct years. And we didn't even really get to start really putting the trebuchet together until a few days before the event. And it was so dusty that year. We were still putting it together Thursday of the event. I remember this so distinctly. We're finally putting the counterweights in as the DPW parade is coming by us. And we're like, we're almost done, guys. I swear. It's going to be done. It's like, I know there's only 3 days left, but it's going to happen. And then we did. We finished it up that Thursday, and the Friday we threw the piano twice. And DA can tell you the exact time of the cleanup, but they were both like within 7 minutes. I think the second one was a little bit longer because we were a little bit snarkier and a little burnt out about it.
To clarify for our listeners, you threw 2 pianos, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
We brought 3, and one of them was actually in good tune. So we switched that one out in the saloon for the broken one that was in the saloon that they initially, voted best, initially brought out in 2007 to throw with the trebuchet. But they're like, oh, well, why waste a piano? Let's put it in the saloon and put it. Anyways, you would not believe how expensive it is to get a free piano to the playa. Oh my gosh. I remember this moment the first time we launched it. So there's this little launching finger. It's actually made out of a cement stake, much like the Golden Spike. It's a little tiny launching finger on the top of the trebuchet. I'm actually motioning for those of you at home. So imagine that I'm gesturing with my hands that I'm saying this. And you put this launching finger in at the angle depends about how far it's going to go, right? So you have a little launching finger, and then you put the giant thimble, which is a rigging term. It's like this metal sleeve over this thing. And as it flings over, whoop, then it just separates. Sorry, it separates from the finger. Like there's nothing actually holding that rigging in place. And I have this motion of as the counterweights drop and the piano comes swinging up and that thimble just falls off that finger in slow motion. But, before the piano even hits the ground, if anything else, I was just thinking, my God, it worked. It was such a great DPW rallying project. Everybody is so proud of it. Those that weren't part of the heavy equipment team that could help us put it together, like I said, nothing like putting your art project together during event week.
Right.
When you're on DPW, you're like, come on.
Nope, more work.
Yeah, we're on DPW. We're right in front of heat, and we still can't get this done until Thursday of the event week. Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. People came to, stand our safety perimeter. We had a super funny moment as we had kind of set it up that it was initially facing towards the man. And a particular board member got a little upset, saying it was disrespectful that it was going to be aiming at the man. I'm like, the piano's going to go like somewhere between 150 and 165 feet from this thing. It's not going to hit the man. It's like right off Esplanade. What are you talking about? But they were so offended by this idea that we had to get the crane out to pick it up and rotate it a little bit.
Oh, my God.
God, Elon Musk's brother is such a piece of shit.
Do I need to watch which direction I flip the bird in case I offend the man?
Oh my God.
The holy effigy of Larry.
Oh.
It was holy before he passed.
Are we going to have to start putting little markers in our house for the direction of the man so we know which way to pray towards?
No.
Larry Akbar.
Well, initially, we had the thing, before we even started putting it together, it was kind of sort of facing the Temple of Mazu.
Now that
was a temple.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then I decided it would be funny and we were still in build time. So I just took some white gaff tape and put a big white X on there. They weren't happy about that. I'm like, whatever. I'm not actually going to do anything. It's just, you guys have no sense of humor. Fine, I'll take the gaff tape down.
Can't have a sense of humor about that. That's an actual temple to an actual goddess, and she'll get real mad.
Yeah, that was also the year that they were really like, no weapons allowed, no weapons allowed. Oh, you guys have a whole trebuchet? Well, all right. I know.
Wasn't allowed to have my pink starter pistol anymore.
Yeah.
I should have quit then.
There's cops with guns on playa.
No, I know. They'll be real nervous to see someone else with a gun in commissary.
They'll just shoot you.
We didn't know that then.
Some of them were so funny about the trebuchet, too. They really came out in full force for that first one. And I'm sure some of them, just as individuals, were curious, but it also felt like they were, what is DPW's actual defense power?
I 100% think that some of those fucking shit heels.
Tin horns.
Tin horns. They really do believe that, like, DPW has the capability of becoming some sort of insurgent force against their authority.
They're so funny with their
brains.
Well, yeah. They're like, I heard this story, and maybe I shouldn't repeat this, but they were like, okay, if we ever have an active shooter, we can just maneuver all these containers into position to make, you're like, do you even understand how difficult that would be? You know,
You can't shoot the guy who's operating the heister. That's just
Quick, somebody's
Rule one.
shooting. Who's got the keys to the scissor lift?
yeah, I know. Right? Beep, beep, beep. Hold on, I gotta back it out of its space. Beep, beep. Okay, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Beep. You know.
what we know about cops is they usually don't do things during active
Yeah.
shooters.
Well, I don't want to say that. I mean, maybe again, like I don't.
Not all
I don't
cops.
I don't want to give people the idea.
40% of
thing.
cops.
And again, maybe I don't want to make people worried that there's electricity just flowing across the playa like oil slicks or. There's-
Only if the playa is recently quite wet and there's a lot of lightning.
If you don't want to
yeah.
die on playa, stay home.
Well,
I don't want to die on playa, but if I do, I probably had it coming.
if I die on playa, it's going to be because I got bit by bugs.
Do you have a story you definitely want to include?
No, but I'm going to say something is I don't think that everybody should go to Burning Man, but I do think if you have the desire that the means will come to you. Like some people really want to go, but then they don't get a ticket the first time. Tickets sell out all the time nowadays, but then they'll come to you. If you just keep putting it out there that you want to go, people will make sure that you go. People will invite you to their theme camps. They'll help you find a ticket. They'll help you find a ticket at actual ticket price. Don't pay more than face value.
Never.
Don't join a theme camp that's going to make you work a lot your first year. You should just be, and don't join staff your first year. Don't do it. You should go and experience. You should take a lamplighter shift so you can just see the whole big picture. And you can do like, a shift at your theme camp, but don't do more than that your first year. Your second year, you should work yourself to death by all means, but not your first year, because so many people go to Burning Man that first year and they work so much, whether as staff or just for their theme camp, that they don't actually see why it's inspiring, why it's life-changing, why it's impressive. And so that's my advice. I know that's not a story, but if you want to go and you're okay with heat or mud, as last year,
Or bugs.
I'm not okay with bugs, but and you're okay with crowds, and you're okay with knowing that things are going to be rough, and you're probably going to have a meltdown, and it's all going to be okay. If you're okay with all those things, and you want to go, just keep putting it out that you want to go, but don't overburden yourself your first year, because I want people to love Burning Man, and people will not love Burning Man if they're already burnt out.
And that was Stinger. I would just like to mention, before we get into our standard outro for our episodes, don't forget, when you get to Burning Man, if you want to be really smart and probably be able to drive out there, you might as well take the leads off of your battery when you park it for good, so that no fuckery occurs and you come back to your car with a completely burnt out battery.
Yeah, that's smart. You never know what subsystem is accidentally on.
Yeah, or it takes like one dome or glove box light.
Or trunk light.
Or trunk light, just some stupid shit like that. Like, if you're going to be out there for, I'm going to say 4 or 5 days, your battery will be depleted.
It's happened to me. It'll happen to you.
Yeah, it's happened to me twice.
It's the easiest place to have your battery die, though. Like, try having your battery die when it's pouring down rain in a parking lot off of fucking I-5 between Wilsonville and Eugene.
Oof.
It's very hard then to find someone to jump your fucking car.
Nobody wants to help you on
horrible.
Interstate 5.
Yeah, no.
Thank you to Stinger. We had a great time with you. And you can come back as one of our friends who we'd like to see all the time. Not Beth's friend, obviously, but Rex is my friend.
Shit.
Stinger. You know Stinger?
No, I still don't know this person. I still don't.
That's why you're not her friend yet.
Yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good at
Put
making
in the
friends.
work, Beth. Accuracy Third is produced by Accuracy Third, 2 shitheels and 1 malingerer. The music in this episode is probably by Late Bus. Thank you to our patrons on Patreon. We couldn't run a physical Cat 6 cable out to the studio without you helping pay for little bits of PVC tubing.
We need you.
Yeah, we
We do.
Is the point. Thank you. If you would like to be on this podcast, and why wouldn't you want to be on this podcast? You listen to this podcast. Get in touch with us at accuracythird@gmail.com and tell us that you would like to tell us your story.
That's Accuracy Third. It's all letters. There's no numbers.
Thank you.
Don't be cute and put a 3 in there.
You can also find us on social media. We are on social media. And by that, I mean one social media, and that is Blue Sky. And sometimes we post.
Yeah. Can I,
Discord?
And Discord.
is
Just
social
join our
media.
Discord. There's a link in the show notes.
guys, friends, can I shut down the Facebook thing?
Yeah.
Yes. My
Facebook
God.
is
yeah.
awful.
Okay,
Stop it.
Don't look for us on Facebook. I'm going to shut that down.
I have just ghosted
and then
Instagram forever.
maybe I will delete my account because, God damn it.
It took me 45 minutes. I finally figured out how to delete Instagram. And do you know what happens when you delete Instagram?
What?
It gives you a pop-up that says, if you change your mind and you log back in the next 30 days, we'll keep all your stuff here for you. You can come right back as if you didn't just leave.
So just Blue Sky and
Just
Discord.
Blue Sky and Discord. Find us on Discord.
Find us there.
And find yourself some merch at burnernarc.com. Burnernarc.com. We're still doing that bit.
Yeah. D-Day has to create. He will be sad if he doesn't make things for you.
Yeah, if you have custom things that you want me to make for you, get at me at accuracythird@gmail.com, all words, no letters, and give me money to design things for you. I like money.
I love wearing my DPW hoodie, not in Reno and not in the Bay Area, because I feel like those 2 places get a lot of eye rolls. But you wear it anywhere else in the country or the world, and people will come up to you and be excited to talk to you about Burning Man. Actually, I think I was telling you, I was at a burner meetup in Los Angeles, and somebody saw my DPW hoodie, and they're like, "Oh, do you know D-Day?" I'm like, "Actually, yes." Because also sometimes people come up to you and they're like, "Oh, you go to Burning Man? Do you know my friend Jeff?"
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Probably.
Yeah, this dude that I know from my work, he doesn't work there anymore. He works at a different firm now, but his name is Steve. Have you met him at Burning Man? It's just like, yes? I don't know. Is he called Gravyfoot?
That's not Steve. That's Ezra.
You know, if we were a race, that would be racist.
Yep.
But we're a party, so yeah, I do.
Yeah.
We're not just a party,
Well,
we're Party
it
City.
reminds me of, like, this doesn't happen so much anymore, but when I first moved to Los Angeles, people are like, "Oh, you live in Los Angeles? Do you see celebrities all the time?" Yeah, like, get out of my way, celebrities. I'm trying to get to work.
Yes, they're just like me. They are also commuting to my job, like me.
But for the most part, the DPW hoodie, besides that DPW is its own, not a cult, but it's so nice when other people are excited to talk about how much they love Burning Man when you meet them on the street.
I spend a lot of time not telling them how much I know about Burning Man. Like I sold
Want to
my
talk budgets and spreadsheets? Okay.
I sold my old Kodiak tent on Craigslist for like $120 last week.
That's a good steal.
It is. I mean, it was a Kodiak tent that was not in the best condition, and I didn't know if a burner was going to take it this early. So I decided that the cheaper it is, the less I have to explain why it's filthy and how you're going to take it anyway. And the guy who bought it for me, I explained that to him. He was like, what's wrong with it? Why is it so cheap? And I told him, and he was like, I should pay you more because it comes with cred. And I was like, that's pretty cool. But then he's talking to me about Burning Man and his project and everything. And he's just like, yeah, so like, what's up with you? And I got so weary in that moment. I was just like, you don't need to. Dude, like fucking 19 years of bullshit just
I know.
crushing me. And I have a meeting tonight, and like, I don't need to talk to you about Burning Man now. And I go in, and Rex is just like, did you give him a sticker? Did you tell him about the podcast? And I was just like, not that guy. No, he was fine. Like, I didn't want to listen to him in the yard. I don't want to listen to him for 2 hours on mic.
He's probably already a fan. He just doesn't realize that.
He might be. He runs a big theme camp. He's had a fucking art car. I don't remember which. I don't give a shit.
Fucking art car. That's a good one.
Oh, why doesn't anybody make a net?